Stéphanie, floor is yours.
Thank you, Case. It's not normal to see my name with viticulture in the viticulture session because I'm only a chemist and chemist in Enology, and I present you today the work directed by Case. And with him we decided to set up a review about the question of aromatic maturity. So the wine quality is a slight equilibrium. On the ground zero is the absence of flavor, and the quality is based on three thematics, three concepts: the concept of complexity, the concept of typicity, and the concept of apparent truth. It could be the main source of consumer willingness to pay. Yes, the typicity is a key point of the quality, but the typicity is not the uniformity. Typical wine have family resemblance, common notes, but not identical and not with the wine made in the neighborhood. The typicity is an interpretation of the terroir in a specific vintage. And the terroir, according to OIV, but according to us also, is a concept including a collective knowledge, so the end of the winemaker and the vine grower. It implies common characteristics for the products originating from a specific area. So the expression of the terroir is modulated by wine composition, and wine composition is modulated by the maturation. What is grape maturity? Grape maturity is a practical reality, and the vine grower and winemaker try to have a common dynamic between the physiological maturity, phenolic maturity, aromatic maturity, and technological one. The aim is to reach the perfect maturity for the perfect harvest for the projected wine. Not the perfect wine, but the wine you want to set up. And this is linked with the question of typicity and of the interpretation of typicity, that means the style of wine you want to make. Unfortunately, the viticultural practices, the viticultural management shows the variety, the soil, and the climate can change the dynamic of maturation. And finally, the choice of the perfect maturity is a compromise for the expression of the terroir. First, the physiologic maturity is a teenager. And if we consider that the physiologic maturity is when the seeds are reach a reproductive capacity, we can consider that, yes, this man reached the reproductive capacity, but is it good for the quality? Is it a good idea to give him the possibility to reproduce? I'm not sure. So we will forget the physiological maturity concerning the grapes. The technological maturity is an old concept, including the ratio of sugars and of total acidity, but if you look at to the references, it's really an old concept. Today we know that considering the technological maturity is necessary but not sufficient to indicate, to give us an indicator of the quality of the grape. The phenologic maturity is a complex concept, including the accumulation of anthocyanins, the exploitability of phenolic compounds, and also the tasting of the berry. This complex concept is a link between phenolic quantity, qualities, and the matrix effects on the organoleptic sensation. The aromatic maturity is probably a strong driver of the wine typicity. The aromatic maturity permits to reveal diverse phases of the cultivar and of the terroir in the vintage. There is several styles of aromatic maturity. The vegetal style, the herbal style, the spicy and floral style, and the fruity style. In the fruity style, there is 3 other families of styles: the fresh, jammy, and cooked fruit styles. Origins of aroma, but I repeat, it's pedagogic. Some aroma are present directly in the berries. It's the case of IBMP, and also in the case of Rotunda, linked with the presence of black pepper odor. These aromas are perceptible by tasting the berry directly in the field. Other aromas are present as precursors linked to sugars or linked to amino acids in the berry and are regulated by the presence of Saccharomyces cerevisiae, by the fermentation, or also by the time. It's a case of diames linked with the odor of truffle, and the case of polyfunctional fires linked with the odor of grapefruit, box tree, and passion fruit. The point I want to highlight with you is the development of other aromas directly by the fermentation. It's a case of ester linked with the apparition of red and black fresh fruit odors. And when I was young, a long time ago, professor used to say me, these compounds are only set up, made by the fermentation. But now, we know that if we take exactly the same person, exactly the same wine, and in one modality, we harvest the grape at normal maturity. After fermentation, the wine develops odor close to those of red fresh fruits. And if we take exactly the same parcel, the same year, and we wait 2 weeks more for Syrah, or 3 weeks more, no, 3 weeks more for Cabernet Sauvignon, the odor developed in the wine are not the same and close to those of black fresh fruit. So, yes, these compounds are generated by the fermentation, but the matrix and the composition of the matrix before the fermentation influence the development of these esters. And this work has been published by Antalik in 2021. Okay, but other studies with the same results have been published by Trujillo, for example. So the matrix composition matter in the development of fermentable aroma. The maturation influences the matrix composition, and the matrix composition influences the perception, the production, and the reveal of aromas. This work needs to be continued, and I hope it will be continued. Concerning the different styles of maturation, in the vegetal style, we know that some compounds with cis carbon atoms are implicated. They have a negative impact on the wine aroma, but the impact is really limited. Concerning the herbal style, it can be linked with the presence of IBMP and other pyrazines. With too much IBMP, there is a negative impact, but it's also a question of style, because in the east of Italy or in New Zealand, they harvest the grape in that position with a lot of IBMP. Concerning the herbal style, there is also the presence of terpene compounds and compounds coming from the degradation of limonene, and these compounds are linked to the presence of minty aroma. For the ones who were in the restaurant yesterday night, the second red wine was in the minty style. Concerning the spicy and floral style, the presence of terpenes such as linalool, geraniol, and so on, and also rotundone and tabanones, can be linked with the expression of the spicy and floral styles. The phenomenon particular with this compound is they are dynamic compound. The quantities of precursor in the berry increase and also decrease after too much maturation. And there is also a dynamic during the winemaking and during the wine aging for modification of the structure of terpene and mainly oxidation of this terpene. So concerning the fresh fruity style, there is also monoterpenes and norisoprenolate implicated in the expression of these styles, and several families of ester generated during the fermentation, but linked with the composition of the matrix. All these compounds are implicated in the huge perceptive interaction. This phenomenon have to be studied further. Concerning the jammy and cooked fruity style, these styles are linked with over-maturation and with the apparition of oxygenated compounds such as MND or methylalactone or furanol sometimes. So, if we consider all the styles of maturation of the berry, we easily understand that we have to avoid extremely green aroma, and we have also to avoid cooked fruit aroma. But between the minty style to the dried fruit style, there is a different possibility, and it's a choice of the vinower and the winemaker to decide what is the quality of grapes they want to set up the projected wine. So let's go back to the question of the terroir and the expression of the terroir. For optimizing the expression of the terroir and mastering the style of wine, yes, theoretically we have to achieve technological, phenolic, and aromatic maturity simultaneously to reach the ideal ripening window. For that, the ripening takes place under mild temperature, not too cold, not too hot. And yes, the vine grower cannot change the air temperature, but can modulate the dynamic of ripening using several technological and viticultural choices. For example, to decrease the aromatic maturity, the viticultural choices can be linked to the brown shading and higher yields, less water deficit, and nitrogen fertilization to modify the vigor, using light varieties, and on the contrary, exactly the contrary, to increase the aromatic maturity. And there is an impact of the climatic change on the equilibrium of the different maturation styles. We know that today there is no example of problematic of herbal and vegetal style of berries. In the most of the region, temperature and water deficit increase. So the management choice must be adapted with more vigor, less leaf removal, and higher vigor of rootstocks. We can change, or you can change, the dynamic of ripening also. Finally, if necessary, only if necessary, by changing the varieties in cool climates, putting some late varieties and some early varieties, and the contrary for one climate. Yes, no, because of the climatic changes, the expression of the terroir is abused. And also the consumers values, the expression of the terroir, because they need a new winemaking process without, for example, SO2. But there is no fatality, and the scientists have tools and must give tools to producers, to winemaker and vine grower to choose between resiliency, adaptation, and modification of the terroir and modification of the practices. The question is, what still do we want in our glasses? What the consumers want in the glasses? What style do we want in the field? What still do we need for the consumer and for the identity of the production area? And the other question is, what style of maturation are we able to produce, including the problematic of climatic changes? Another question we have to answer is, what impacts aromatic typicity the most? Only the variety or the entire terroir? Can we change the variety without changing totally the identity of an area? And the last question, more philosophical question, is, does tradition prevail over the adaptation? So to conclude, we have to taste the berry, put on the boots, go in the field, go in the field and taste the berry, not in the lab, because there is a modification of the berry between the field and the lab. Put the boots, go in the field and taste the berry. And taste wines. We have to taste wine with experimental design, with the same variety in different places, with consumers, with professionals alone. We have to taste wine with same places and different varieties. We have to taste wine with a lot of common characters, such as variety, for example, and soils, but different altitude and different hydric situations. If you want to go further with this presentation, you can read on OENO One the review article, Aromatic maturity is the cornerstone of terroir expression in the right way.